today's topic is one that I think really resonates with a lot of people, and a lot of people are always asking about stress management. One of the things that I think we've been asked about is how emotions play into stress. And as far as I'm concerned, emotions play 100% when it comes to experiencing stress. And the reason I say this is because I often explain how when one feels stressed, what happens is that we automatically, whether you're conscious of it or not, you kick in the fight or flight response. And when you kick in the fight or flight response, many things happen in your body, like your heart rate goes up, you might begin to sweat, your hands might get sweaty, your muscles tense, blood flows to your limbs that you can run or fight for safety or survival. Your eyes narrow, your brain frequency goes up, and a lot of things like that. Internal processes are slowed down, blood cell production. Cell productions are slowed down, so healing is slowed down, and it happens automatically. And what is the fight or flight response is a response to perceived danger. So there might not be danger, but if you perceive it, of course, your body automatically kicks in the fight or flight response to protect itself for survival. Now, this is a response that helped us as humans be able to come to this point from our beginnings to now in the thousands of years of our existence. But what happened, I think, along the way is that the fight or flight response also evolved along with us. At one point in time, we literally had to fight and or run away from danger in order to survive, or we'd be eaten by some animal, or we'd be attacked by others, or whatever it was. It was a very primal, very kind of a dangerous world at one point in time. So this fight or flight response, which are behaviors, you're fighting and or fleeing, that's running away. These behaviors helped us to stay alive and to be where we are today. But it doesn't seem like we have to fight anymore in that way for most people. I want to clear that up. I understand there's exceptions, so there are options, and whatever. But for most people in the world, we live in a different type of world, a different type of society where we don't literally go outside the streets and fight or run or whatever in order to survive. So that response has evolved through the many, many thousands of years, where the fighting part is now anger and the fleeing part is now fear. So what we need to ask ourselves whenever we're going or when we're about to experience stress, or when we feel like we're moving from being comfortable and everything's okay to suddenly something happening that triggers us and we begin to get tense, or we begin to change our mood, or internal state changes, or we just begin to shift from comfort to stress. When that begins to happen, we need to ask ourselves, what am I angry and or afraid of? Because it's going to be one or the other. More than likely, you're going to be afraid of something that's going to happen, or you're angry because somebody showed up, or your boss is making you do something you don't want to do, or your husband or wife is expecting or demanding something of you, or the children are whatever. Okay, so life happens. And so one of those two things begins to get triggered. But when you look at that, you have to also ask, well, what's triggering the fear and or anger? Because something else is going to trigger fear and or anger. Now notice, fear that replaced anger that replaced the fight is an emotion. And fear that replaced the flight is also an emotion. So emotions have replaced the actions or the behaviors that help us to, in our mind, survive. And anytime that we perceive danger or we're threatened by something. So when we are triggering, anytime you trigger anything, you're triggering something of your past. When we trigger the fight or flight response, what happens then is that there's got to be something else that allows that to happen. And what I usually explain is that we've had a history, a lifelong history of core experiences that have been reinforced over and over and over and over again throughout your history, your lifelong history. And that is either abandonment, rejection, hopelessness, helplessness, or feeling that you're not in control of situations. Now, you need to ask yourself, when was the first time that you felt abandoned? I can think of times that maybe my parents were going out on a date, or they were going out of the country because my father would travel so much and we were very young. And we're wondering, well, why can't I go with you? And what, you're leaving me or you're leaving us? And we probably felt a sense of abandonment, although they weren't abandoning us. To a child, how does a child reason that? How, they're not equipped to reason and to make sense of, your parents are leaving for a month because your dad's going to go work, mom is going to accompany him. And of course, your older brothers and sisters and nannies are going to stay and take care of you all, but they're leaving. And a child can't understand and make sense of it in the same way an adult can. So that sense of abandonment might be there. I remember there were times I would walk in, and I'm sure it happened with my children, to me as well, because I traveled a lot. And there were times that I remember walking into my dad, and he was always studying, always in his office, always working. And it could be later on in the evening, and I'd walk in and say, Dad, and he'd look up and say, like, I really interrupted him, like, what do you need? And I felt like, wow, like not understanding, he's really busy right now. And I thought he was rejecting me. So we all go through that. And then how many times does it get reinforced? When was the first time you felt helpless? When was the first time that you felt hopeless? When was the first time you felt that you had a loss of control or you couldn't control things? I can remember times when we were in classrooms as in pre-kinder and kindergarten and first grade, where you weren't allowed to talk. You had to listen and pay attention and obey your teacher or the superior or someone who was older than you. And so again, these are things that happen to everybody. If we were capable of handling and understanding and logically making sense of these happenings and knowing it wasn't about us, or that these are things that happen in general, but that's okay. If we could do that as children, which we cannot, then we probably all wouldn't have the problem with stress and anxiety. But because we're not equipped brain-wise or maturity-wise or emotionally to understand and make sense of these things, what happens is that we go experiencing certain things, maybe some more than others, like abandonment or rejection or feeling helpless or hopeless, or like I can't control these situations throughout our lives, and they get reinforced over and over again. So in part, the emotional you, if you continue to respond the same way or feel the same way or interpret in your mind the similar situations in similar ways, then you never seem to grow up and out of that emotional ability to handle things like these things called abandonment or rejection or helplessness and hopelessness and a feeling of not being in control. And when you can't do that, it's very stressful. And you can either get very upset about it because it can get very frustrating, or you might even become afraid of it. Most of the time, we're afraid of things that are coming and we don't know what's going to happen. And we fear like, oh, what if this happens, then what? And we have this what if and what if and what if and what if. And in our mind, we create all kinds of scenarios of what if this and what if that. And we're creating something that's not even real. And we need to catch ourselves when we're doing that. Or sometimes we get upset because something gets us angry because somebody in the past did this to me, and we're pointing fingers of blame. And always when we point those fingers of blame, we have these three fingers pointing right back at us. It's not about anybody outside of you. It's always about you and your ability or inability to cope or manage a stressful situation. Now, the thing to notice here is to recognize that, again, when something is being triggered, it has to do with your past. And if you're triggering the fear and or anger or stress, and then you're automatically triggering some core experience that's been reinforced many times over and over and over, that means you're kind of triggering or evoking a past younger you to come and handle a stressful situation that is not equipped to handle. So if a younger you shows up to handle something going on at the office or with your spouse or with the children or a work-related whatever or a health issue, you're not prepared as a child to handle things like that. Yet you evoke the child if you fall prey to allowing these core experiences to come in and take over. And if you're in anger, to take over. So the ideal scenario for this, so the ideal way to manage stress and anxiety, and then what's managing it and being able to have control of it instead of in controlling you, means that you are able to eliminate the effects that it has on you. So whenever you begin to feel, which I would say is always the first step, whenever you notice, and it requires mindfulness, whenever you notice that you've shifted from being comfortable to feeling stressful or annoyed or a bit angry or fearful, the moment you begin to notice that shift, that you need to become very aware of, because at that point in time, you interrupt the pattern of how you are going to react to stress, which is almost automatic. A lot of times people say, I can't help it, I'm just like that. That's the way I am. No, that's not the way you are. That's the way you've trained yourself to be. And it's up to you as an adult to be able to change that reaction into a response so that you can respond with ability instead of react uncontrollably. What are some of the reactions? You begin to scream, or you begin to stomp, or you begin to pout, or you begin to cry. What adult is going to cry? For heaven's sakes, if you're an adult, you learn how to handle situations because you have at your disposal a wealth of wisdom that you have accumulated throughout your lifetime, and you have resources, every single resource available to you and at your disposal. So if you have wisdom and resources and you stay focused, and with the adult you taking over the situation instead of allowing the past younger you to come in and take over, you'll always be able to manage stress, make sense of it, learn from it, grow from it. And you won't be stomping or screaming or arguing or crying or anything like that, because those are reactions of children. That's not a reaction of an adult. Those are reactions of children. So we need to, again, recall the moment we begin to shift. And sometimes I go like this because for me, I feel my body telling me you're shifting from comfort to stress. And I feel that maybe like those, like getting a little bit of a nauseated feeling in my stomach, or the butterflies begin to flutter in there, or get an emptiness in the pit of my stomach, or sometimes my muscles stress, my face changes its demeanor. You know, I sometimes will hear my husband say, when he changes his mind about something, I'm thinking, okay, take a deep breath. Let's go along with it. And he says, now you're upset. I said, no, I'm not upset. He goes, I can see it in your face, because automatically as I'm processing, my face changes its affect, and I might look a little bit different. I said, trust me, I'm not upset. I'm just processing that we're shifting gears now and going in a different direction than what I thought we were going to do. That's okay. And so you're constantly being mindful of what you're doing so that you'll be able to manage it as you move, through your daily life, day in and day out. So first step is to be mindful of the shift taking place. And second step is to recognize what is being triggered. Is it fear or anger, a little bit of both, which is possible? And to also at the same time recognize what core experience is being triggered. Is the rejection being triggered because my boss just threw out all the work I did and said, this is lousy, it's not going to work for us, and I feel rejected because I spent so much time on it? Or is it because my husband will say, or my spouse will say, you know what, I don't really want to do this right now, or whatever, or we're not going to, what have you, and then I feel like he's rejecting me? Or is it because a child of mine has gotten ill and they're saying there's no hope there, and the illness is going to have to take its course, and I feel like I'm helpless? Or they tell you this is it, there's nothing else that can be done, and it's a hopeless situation? Or is it because I can't control everybody and everything, which all of us have a little bit of that in us, because we want everything to go our way. And so we all have a bit of a control freak in us, whether we admit it or not. I think we all do. At any rate, that's the second thing you want to notice is also what core experience is being triggered. Because the moment you're able to identify that you have triggered fear or anger and a core experience, you're able then to separate yourself from the younger you that you just evoked, or that was just evoked. And you say, not now, I'm going to handle this. And you willfully and mindfully decide, I'm going to handle this. What am I going to do? Because I have a lot of tools that can work. I have a lot of Silva tools. I have wisdom. I have life experience. And resources. I have a lot of tools. So what you do then is at that very moment, you begin to imagine an outcome that is best suited for you and what you need at this point in time. So you start doing this imagery, and it can be very quick. All of this can take about 10 seconds to achieve. And once you got the imagery, you can step into that image of you, experience you being calm and in control and everything flowing the way you want it to flow, whether the conversation is going well, whether your presentation is going well, whether your sales pitch is going well, whatever it might be, handling bad news in a very, in a good, healthy manner, however, and responding to it appropriately. And then when you feel very like in control of the situation and that you have access to your resources, then you can put your three fingers together and basically say, whenever I have a need or desire to feel, think, believe, or behave this way, all I need to do is press my three fingers together and it will be so. That way, in the future, should you have stressful situations beginning to shift or move in, then you immediately identify, move them out, put your fingers together, go back into the whole idea that I have wisdom, I have resources, I am capable and to handle this situation in a very calm and effective way. And you know that by simply putting your fingers together because you are already impressed that experience of being able to handle stressful situations in a calm, wise, and very effective manner. And the more you do this, the more your body, brain, and mind get into that new pattern of response and not react. So now we can respond to situations appropriately, calmly, effectively, and alongside manage your stress and the effects that anxiety bring into the picture. So I hope that helps, because we do have, and in fact, we're creating a product right now on how to eliminate stress and anxiety. And I'll have several exercises that you can experiment with that will have different versions of handling stress, a different way of staying focused in the now. It'll have a way to overcome incompetence, for example. Forgiveness is also a big thing because sometimes the things that cause the greatest stress will be like those core experiences of hopelessness, helplessness, abandonment, rejection, and not having control. But along with that is having lost something of great value, like a loss of a loved one, a loss of a business, that you started from scratch. That great loss can cause a lot of stress. Also, working under conditions you absolutely hate, but you feel like I'm stuck here. I can't get out. And if you have that stuck feeling, I can't get out, that helplessness and hopelessness, then that's going to cause a lot of stress. And the other one is guilt. If you've done something that you shouldn't have done and others are suffering because of that, or you're suffering because of that, that's a lot of guilt to carry. It can really work against your immune system so much that it can even kill you. And I know I've had personal close friends who have literally killed themselves out of guilt, and it's crazy sad. And or if let's say if you should have done something and you didn't do, and because you didn't do it, it's just the opposite of doing something you should have done. Here's not doing something you should have done. Then also, and people suffer because of that, or you suffer because of that. Then that can also be the cause of great stress, and that's also causing that hopelessness and helplessness within you. And so there's also a meditation on forgiveness. So, and the mirror of the mind always, because the mirror of the mind, we offer it to you over and over and over again, because we want it to be fresh for you, because that's so versatile that you always are able to utilize the mirror of the mind for so many things. But the whole idea behind this program, it's called a mini course, is that you're able to mentally rehearse, many times over, alongside using the three fingers technique to have your mini booster meditations throughout the day as you need them, and mentally rehearse over and over how to manage stress effectively, how to stay calm, how to be resourceful, how to be capable, how to deliver to yourself that management ability of stress and anxiety. And the more you rehearse it, the more automatic it becomes, and those new patterns set in. It's like create a new habit of how to handle stress effectively, and it becomes automatic. And you'll find that you don't react to things anymore. You'll pause before you respond. You think it through, and you'll think about the more logical way of handling it, the best, most resourceful way of handling it. You're more calm about the process, and so getting all crazy and reacting to things. You don't do that anymore, because you've learned a new way of handling it that feels better, works better, is more effective, and is healthier for you as well. We need to remember that emotions, or let's say stress, let's put it like this, stress is responsible, this is what science says, for like 80% of all illnesses. So what we're saying here then is that it's the emotions that are really at the root of all your illnesses. So we can manage our emotions, and we can manage, and which you can, fear and anger, and we can manage, which you can, those core experiences that led to helplessness, hopelessness, abandonment, rejection, and a feeling of loss of control, then we're going to maintain a healthier immune system, and we're going to be healthier individuals throughout our lives. So it's really important that we begin to recognize that emotions are really at the core, at the root of a lot of challenges in our lives, because they're the ones that trigger, fear and or anger and stress. And that stress is going to filter into everything that we do, to whether it's going to be our relationships, our workability, our thinking process, our health and our immune system, everything. So it's really one of the most important things that we can do is to manage stress and anxiety through mindfulness and action. That's the bottom line.